Hi, everybody. Welcome to an evening with an Albatross. My name is Lynn Adams. I'm with the Pacific Beach Coalition, and we are very proud to bring this program to you. It's always our mission. Well, let me just read our mission. The Pacific Beach Coalition is dedicated to preserving the ocean, coastal habitat and wildlife, and ending litter through advocacy, education, community building, and citizen action. So while everything is a little crazy right now, with all that's going on in the planet, we still aspire to educate, engage, and inspire everyone to pick up litter so that they can join our team aiming to end litter. Our mission isn't just to pick up litter, it's to end litter. And in that regard, we work very hard, and we got stopped from our big cleanups. We used to have 90 people at a cleanup, and we can't do that anymore. So we've been reaching other ways to get people to do the right thing and to pick up litter, because the litter doesn't stop, and in fact it's probably increased. So before we begin, I just wanted to say I actually recognize some names on here, and I see some people that are, I think, from Wisconsin and Michigan and Hawaii. Are there other people that are online? That would be really awesome. If you're from a different state representing other than California, which I assume probably most of us are from California. But if you're from another state, go ahead and put it in the comments. You're welcome to put anything in the chat, comment, questions in the chat. There's also a question button. I'll be reviewing those periodically and trying to get those questions to our speaker. So I just wanted to thank you. Please be nice in the chats. If you have good comments, if you are inspired by something, feel free to write about it. We look forward to having fun with you today. So at this time, I would like to introduce to you, well, actually, someone said, why Albatross? Why are we honoring Albatross? Why do we care? Why do we choose the Albatross? And it's a long process for the Pacific Beach Coalition to come up with an honoree for the year. And that honoree is something that really brings our message to the general public and to us. And so we chose the Albatross because they're great ambassadors for conservation. And they really share our most urgent messages right now about plastic in the ocean, plastic on the planet, and climate change and sea level rise. And both of those big ticket items really affect Albatross. So that's how we chose the Albatross, and we're really proud to honor it. And we will honor them this year. We will honor them again next year. And if you would have come to Earth Day, if we could have done Earth Day, you would have seen our Earth Day was honoring Albatross. But we'll get a chance to do that again next year. So enough from me. I'm proud to introduce to you a person that I met at an Albatross talk in Marin. I fell in love with her presentation. I fell in love with her talk and her art. I recruited her to teach our school assemblies, and she was going to lead an organization. She created that video as a part of the Albatross assemblies that we were going to bring to students. She even has a traveling exhibit that's rented out through Exhibit Envoy, and we were able to hire that exhibit to go to all the schools here in Pacifica and to go to 2 libraries, Pacifica and Half Moon Bay. Unfortunately, it was canceled because of COVID, but 2 schools got to see it, and we're going to bring them back next year. So please welcome an amazing artist, an author, a lover of Albatross, Caren Loebel-Fried.
Hi, everybody. I'm in Volcano, Hawaii, so now we're really spread across the planet, pretty much, at least half of the planet. But I wanted to thank Pacific Beach Coalition so much. I'm delighted to be partnering with you guys, and I'm so excited to bring my love of Albatross with you. And I want to thank everybody who's here today Thank you so much. I mean, shout out to New York, New Jersey, Boston, because I know some of you guys are here as well, and it's pretty late by you, but thanks so much for your interest and your support, everybody. And we've already gotten some great questions. If anybody has questions, go ahead and put them in, ask a question, and we'll get to them over the course of our talk. And we also have, I don't know, so if you are interested, don't want to put anybody on the spot, but if you got a chance to see the video, then I don't want to be too repetitive. So you can let me know in the chat area, or we can just you'll enjoy watching. Who doesn't enjoy watching Albatross videos over and over again? I know I don't.
They're wonderful.
They are wonderful. So we're going to try to share some videos with you, but if it doesn't work out, then please, I encourage you to watch the video after if you haven't seen it already, because it gives a lot of information and the videos are all there plus more. So anyway, thanks for the opportunity to share with you guys.
Yeah. So Caren, can I ask you a question? So I understand that you spent 2 seasons on Midway Atoll studying the albatross. How did you get interested in albatross in the first place? And how did your journey start with albatross?
Well, first of all, when I was there, my main reason was as a volunteer albatross counter, we call it. I was doing an albatross census. So we basically counted all of the active nests on Midway Atoll. And what happened was, I don't remember exactly what happened, why I became aware of albatrosses, but once I did, it was like just getting hit with a big, something I could never ignore. So I started to learn everything I could about them. And I started to really bug biologists and conservationists that I know and say, how can I get to Midway? So the way I got there was by becoming I volunteered with the group of counters. And I was also researching. I ended up connecting with U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. They are actually managing Midway, and they basically care for all of the wildlife there. Besides albatross, there's all kinds of amazing wildlife out on Midway. And I was researching for art that I created for Midway Atoll. So I don't know if you can see, but there's I have the poster that I did for Midway, and they're actually Friends of Midway is always raising funds for the care of albatrosses. So I'll tell you more about that later. But
that's awesome. What do you love most about the albatross?
Wow, what do I love most about albatross? What don't I love about albatross? They're wonderful, as you said before, Lynn. They're really amazing ambassadors, because I feel like most people who see them just engage with them because there's something familiar about them, because they mate for life, so they're really into each other. But interestingly, when they go off, they come together only when they're nesting on Midway once a year. But other than that, they both the two from the couple go off by themselves. They don't see each other all the rest of the season. So it's kind of an interesting plan for a relationship.
Wow. How many different kinds of albatross are there? The ones that your artwork is mostly the lace-on albatross. Is that correct?
Yep.
So how many species are there? And can you tell me a little bit about the general population?
Sure. So there are 22 recognized species right now of albatross. We only see 3 in the northern hemisphere, and the rest are in the southern hemisphere. And there are some much larger ones south of the equator. And like here, the albatrosses, like the Laysan albatrosses, they have like a 6-7 foot wingspan. But there's also the black-footed albatross and the short-tailed albatross, and they're all north of the equator. Southern albatrosses, some of them have up to an 11-foot wingspan. So they're like the giants of albatrosses. But it's kind of interesting. So they don't cross the equator. And that's because the story of an albatross is wind. Without wind, they can't survive. They have adapted to use wind to be able to travel huge distances to get to food sources. And the reason why they go all the way back to islands in the northwestern Hawaiian Islands, which is called Papahana Moku Akea in Hawaiian, they go to these islands that used to be free of predators. So that was a safe place for them to nest because they nest on the ground. So they're very, very susceptible to predators just being able to attack them. So they have to be able to travel really far distances. So it's just amazing how they've learned and adapted to use wind to be able to go effortlessly through the air. It actually takes more effort to walk on land than it does for them to fly, like 1,000 miles at a clip.
So how can they fly 1,000 miles?
Well, they actually do a couple of different things. They do dynamic soaring, which is, so dynamic soaring and slope soaring. So they use wind, which is rising over the wave fronts, and they also use ocean swells, which provides lift for them. So they can actually go like up to 50 miles an hour. And to watch them, I got to watch them on Midway. We went outside of the reef in a boat, and I got to see them doing their thing. But you can even see them close to shore. Or actually, you can see them offshore in California. But they basically spread their wings out, and they go side to side, up and down, and they just continue to do that using the energy from wind and from the wind off of the ocean.
Well, I think we have a video about flying. If Hardy, if it's possible to queue up the flying video, it's number 4.
And if the video doesn't work, you guys can also see it on the presentation, the video on YouTube. So you're welcome to see that. Oh, I think here we go. There it is. Just has to be bigger.
Okay, Mart. Hardy, can you make that bigger by chance?
Thanks for your patience, everybody. Let's see what kind of questions we have. Maybe in the meantime, So here's an interesting question. So do albatross ever foster chicks that are abandoned? I don't think they would. I think they would definitely foster an egg. If you put an egg underneath them, they would definitely continue to incubate that egg. And then once the chick pecks its way out, then the parents would care for that chick. But once they have their chick and they're bonded with that chick, I've never heard. I mean, the way they act with chicks around, I don't think that they would be. But I can verify that. But that would be my sense because I saw them being pretty much only into their chicks. Oh, I think we have the video now.
Oh, good. Let's see if that works. There we go.
Okay, so you can see that albatross. It's kind of small. There, see, it goes to the side and then to the side. And they even touch the water with the tip of their wing when they go down close to the water. And they just keep on doing that same movement, up and down, back and forth, side to side. And it's incredible to watch.
So, I'm just looking at the questions here. What was your happiest and saddest memory about being on Midway Atoll for 7 weeks?
Well, I was there 2 times, and the first time I went was pretty amazing because I was looking forward to going, and I had learned so much about them. So I have to say, it's interesting. When you go to Midway, you actually fly out at night because albatrosses are most active during the day, and that's the safest time to land without having a strike. So when we did come in, it was very late at night. It was completely dark. And as we landed and we went down the runway, and I realized that caught in the beam of light, all these white bodies, and they were all albatrosses. I mean, we ended up counting over 600,000 nesting albatrosses, when I was there the first time, that was actually a record count. That was in 2015. It was amazing. It was a huge, huge year for nesting albatrosses then. So that was, I mean, I have so many happy times. I think my saddest moment, I mean, there's a couple of sad moments. When you see death, of course, it makes you feel really sad. And also leaving. My heart was just being ripped out of my body when I had to leave. And it was such an interesting feeling because on one hand, I felt like it meant so much to me. And then, but realizing that this wildlife, it existed way before humans even existed. I mean, albatrosses have been around for millions of years. And we humans, I mean, it hasn't been that long, relatively speaking. And so to them, it's like, I don't make any difference to them. And that was a very interesting feeling for me personally. And I really liked it.
Oh. Wow. Someone asked, when is the albatross breeding season and what is their diet?
Okay, so they breed in the winter. I mean, when I arrived there, it was December, mid-December. So they arrived in November, and that's when they start getting ready to get down to business. So you have a couple of different things going on. You have the adults that are mated pairs arrive within like a day of each other usually, but it's incredible. It's like so synchronized. They come back from being out at sea and they land and usually the two mated adults that have been at this for a long time, they will get right down to business and lay their egg. But you also have albatrosses that are younger that are coming back sometimes for the first time, because after albatrosses fledge, they go out to sea for like 4 years or more, and then they start to come back, and they come and they meet each other. So you see tons of dancing, and dancing is the way they court. That's the way they get to know each other, because through dancing they actually can judge each other's fitness, and they can gauge age and experience by how well they dance. So that's really cool. Oh, and here's another thing that I just loved. One time when I was just on Midway and just watching them coming in. So I saw this young albatross, and I say young because it just seemed like it. You can't determine an albatross's age because they look the same, but whether they're young or old, I mean, once they reach adulthood. So this albatross was coming down, and I'm watching, and she was already dancing before she even touched the ground. She was there was an albatross that was down there that was dancing, and they touched bills as she was landing, and as her feet were touching, she was already dancing. So it was like, she was so excited to be coming back. I'm calling her a she just because you can't tell the difference between the sexes. I mean, some people believe that they can, but they look very much alike. Oh, and one other really cool thing. I know I went pretty far from answering that question. Okay, what do they eat? So their favorite food is squid. And they also eat flying fish eggs. And later on, let's talk about flying fish eggs again, because that ties into why they eat so much plastic. But I don't want to get into that right now. Okay, is that okay, Lynn?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Okay. So anyway, that's basically what their diet is. They land on the surface of the ocean, and they sit on the surface, and they move their little feet around, and then they grab usually squid from the ocean, but that they're called surface feeders because they eat from the surface of the ocean.
Don't they create bioluminescence?
Yes, this is so cool. So I was I had all these questions, of course, and every time you have a question answered, then more questions come up. But there was one biologist that helped me by bringing to my attention research that has been done about, well, how do albatrosses catch their prey? Because it's not like squids are saying, hey, here I am, come and get me. But they actually albatrosses have an incredible sense of smell, and they can sense their prey that way. And they actually, what is thought to be the way that they actually lure prey is by paddling their feet under the water, and it attracts the bioluminescent creatures or moves them around and lights them up. And the squids eat them, and then the albatrosses grab the squid. Isn't that cool? I just love that. That is just such it's so cool to think of them fishing that way.
That's amazing. It's really remarkable, and that they can go in the vast ocean and fly thousands of miles to find that food.
Hmm.
So, but I want to go back. If it's all right with you, I'd like to try to play that courtship video that you have,
Oh, for
and then you
dancing.
can talk about the dancing.
Dancing. Great.
Okay,
Great.
and then
Let's
I
go.
do think we should still go back and see the curious albatross. How
Oh,
about
yeah.
if we do those in succession? Okay.
That sounds great. So curious is such a fun thing because I'll tell you about that one afterwards. But remember to ask me, Lynn.
Okay,
Like,
so let's do the courtship, and then we'll
here's
go curious.
Here's curious. So,
Oh, here's curious. Okay.
yeah. So I was standing with my camera, and this albatross was coming over to me like, what are you? And what's that thing? And was just so gently kind of checking me out. Oh. And the thing about albatross is, so this guy, this is the third time he came up to me, and he kept on pulling at the cord of my camera, probably reminded him of a squid. I don't know. But anyway, he was practically ripping the camera from my hands. He was very strong and extremely persistent. He wouldn't have stopped. I stopped.
Wow.
And the thing about albatross is they probably have never seen most albatrosses have never seen a human before. So that's another amazing thing for a human to experience, is these creatures that they're just used to being in a place where there are no predators, and we are a predator, and we brought all the predators to them. So,
What
and that's
predators?
Yeah.
Predators do they have on the island?
Well, for a long time, rats are a big problem. Right now, mice are a huge problem, and actually on Midway, and actually in other islands like Gough and in the south, they have a terrible problem with mice, and they're going to be doing an eradication program, because what mice do is I think it has to do with drought, has something to do with them. They change their behavior, and they don't always do this, but some years they start to prey on the nesting albatrosses. So they actually climb up, and you can see blood on their heads. They climb all the way up, and actually when they started, researchers out there started to see these injuries on albatrosses, and it was just very mysterious. Like, why? What is this? What's causing this? And they put a night vision camera on it, and then they saw it, and it was just like, oh my gosh, mice. I mean, these little cute house mice.
Oh.
So it's because of us. We brought house mice there. So that's why and there's other things like interesting. You wouldn't think like a plant would be like such a threat to albatross, but there was a huge problem with this plant called verbicina on Midway, and they'll probably never totally eradicate it. But what happened was it was basically taking over all of their nesting area. And Midway is where most of the world's laysan and black-footed albatross nest. So without this island or this atoll, they're in trouble. They need to have a place on land to nest. So that they've been working on eradicating the verbicina, and the verbicina has seeds that just last forever. They're indestructible. Years later, they're blooming again. But they've done really well. They've done really well, and now it's ironwood, so they're starting to get rid of areas with ironwood. But humans are taking care of it. I mean, I'm so grateful to Fish and Wildlife and everybody that works out on Midway, because they're really working on it. And that's actually the albatross's nest on some of the other northwestern Hawaiian islands as well.
Okay, I have a question here. And while you answer this question, Hardy, can you get ready to play the courtship video so we can see them? I think that's just too cute. So the courtship video. So Caren, Lily wants to know, when is the albatross breeding season, and what is their diet? So you talked about their diet already, but when is their breeding season?
Well, I started to talk about that. So they begin they arrive like in November, and then they get right to business. So then the chicks pretty much into the summer. So all of that time that covers the cycle of courting, laying the egg, and then then it's incubating the egg, and then the then the parents go to work at feeding the egg one at a time. So both parents are involved in taking care of the egg and the chick. It's a really incredible cooperation.
Wow.
So let's watch the courtship video, the dancing video, and then we'll pick it up. Oh, it looks like it's pixelated. I'm not seeing it very well. So you guys are going to have to watch it. Oh my gosh, I really encourage you to watch the video. It doesn't look like it's coming through that clearly, unfortunately. But
so tell me a little bit about this. They have moves, right?
Oh yeah, they've got moves. They're incredible moves, and they have vocalizations that are all, I mean, it's very worked out, and each species of albatross has their own. I mean, I spent the most time with Laysan and black-footed albatrosses, and they have completely different dances and songs, completely different. So it's really interesting.
Wow.
Oh, it's such a repertoire. You can't even believe it. It's very cool. And they really watch each other. They really gauge each other's abilities. And it's also cool to see the young ones. Okay, so this is the black-footed. There you go. Unfortunately, you can't hear it, but you can see it. Look at that.
Wow.
I wish you could hear it too.
Oh my God, look at all the albatross out there. Is that on the Midway Atoll too?
Oh yeah, there we go. Now you can hear them.
Oh my God.
Oh, it's amazing. And they're very synchronized. I mean, when you watch them dance, it's so much about them dancing with each other. And it looks kind of, I mean, it's sort of entertaining to watch them, but I have to tell you, it's serious business for them. They mate for life. So if they're judging each other mostly by dancing, then it's very serious to them. So you really start to see it differently when you realize how important that is for them.
That's amazing. I did have a question here about if they mate for life. And can you tell us about Wisdom? And the question is, what about her partner?
Yeah.
Wisdom's partner. Would it be the same partner all this time?
Well, she's had a few partners. And what happens is they mate for life or until one mate, if one mate doesn't show up, then they usually wait around. And then they'll go back out to sea, and they'll come back and they'll start to prospect the year after that. So Wisdom has already had at least 3 mates. I'm not sure how many more. There's probably people out there watching this right now that know. And if you know, please put it in the chat. How many mates has Wisdom had? Or you could probably Google it. But it's been a few, and it's incredible because so in 1956, Chandler Robbins put a band on Wisdom, and because of that, we meaning the people were able to gauge how old she is. So she continues to come back. We know for a fact that she's at least 69 years old, and she's been coming back every year and laying an egg. She's had many successful chicks since then. But she, I mean, you wouldn't know it to look at her that she's 69. She's still having babies. Can you imagine?
Wow.
69. Wow.
69?
Yeah. Oh, somebody wrote, I loved the Albatross video. Great. Thank you.
That's nice.
Do they
nest? The question is, do they nest on other islands?
They do. They do. They nest on other northwestern Hawaiian islands. They also nest on some of the main Hawaiian islands. They're on at Kaena, on Oahu, and also at Kilauea Point. And that's a pretty cool place to go see albatross because you can see them there. If you go up to Kilauea Point on Kauai, you can see albatrosses. You can see them on people's lawns there. If you watch the video, you'll see I show actually a sign, Albatross Crossing, and it's not a joke. You really do have to be careful about not hitting them. Another really cool story is Pacific Rim Conservation, sorry. They are translocating albatrosses because they want to create safe places, they're kind of like an island within an island. So they've built a predator-proof fence around a big area, and now it's on different islands. But within that predator-proof fencing, now they've brought young albatrosses and they raise them, they feed them. I volunteer with them when I can, and it's incredible to see how they are figuring out how to really care for albatrosses. And then the hope is, of course, that they bond with this new place and that they'll come back to this place when they fledge. You know, it's going to be 4 or 5 years before you know whether they survived and whether they're going to come back there to breed. And already they're having repeat customers. So it's like, yay, very exciting.
Yeah, maybe you can tell them about how they choose their place where they nest, and how they return, and why they're concerned about all the albatross being on the Midway Atoll.
Well, they do. They end up. They always return to the place where they where they fledged from. So it's very crowded on Midway, and there are actually prospectors that go. I mean, I know that a couple of islands off of Mexico, there are some albatrosses breeding there. And actually, when you see the albatrosses off the California coast, those actually usually come from the islands off of Mexico. But yeah, they return to the place where they fledged from. So what was the other part of your question?
What's the problem with all of the albatross being on the Midway Atoll? Why is there a challenge there?
Well, there's a lot of challenges for albatrosses, but it is getting crowded there. And there's also, when you're out there, it's sort of shocking. I mean, it's this beautiful, pristine place, and the amount of garbage that washes up on the beach. We did beach cleanups. I mean, you clean up everything and it continues to come in. So it's an incredible indicator of the amount of plastic and trash that we put into the ocean. It's shocking. So anyway, that's why I love working with you guys, Pacific Beach Coalition, because you really get the word out about how we really have to stop using single-use plastic and just be really conscious of our plastic use, because it's really in there. And that's another cool thing about albatross and why it's important to study them. And that is because they're great indicators of the health of the ocean. Because unfortunately, so I was saying before what they eat. So they eat mostly squid, but they also eat flying fish eggs. So the way flying fish are, they lay their eggs on things that are floating on the surface of the ocean. And it used to be things like pumice, a light volcanic substance, and also wood, little pieces of wood. But now there's plastic. So it's actually created an incredible opportunity for flying fish, which was brought to my attention by Beth Flint, who's a U.S. Fish and Wildlife biologist. But she said that the flying fish now have incredible opportunity for laying a lot of their eggs on plastic. So what albatrosses do is they go out, they eat the flying fish eggs, and they also consume the plastic that they're attached to. Then they'll bring the food back and feed their chicks. So sometimes albatrosses are just, they don't have any room for real food, and they either die from dehydration or from starvation. And you can actually sometimes see them. I'm sorry for people that are squeamish, but you can actually see the carcass of a fish, an albatross, and you see the stomach, and it has it's just full of plastic. Yeah, so that makes you really not want to pollute when you see what plastic does to these chicks, and it's so out of our sight. I mean, us humans, we don't know that how we're affecting the ocean by what we inadvertently put into it.
I hate to go back, but I do have a good question. How many times would they pair off dancing evaluation before choosing to mate for life?
Oh, that's a great question. I have no idea.
Chris Romero. Hi, Chris.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I mean, it seems like from just my lay observation that they spend a lot of time a lot of time sort of gauging each other and dancing with a lot of different partners. And you can see, I mean, you see one, I'm going to call it a guy because I don't know. You see one guy and he's just like, oh, he wants so badly to meet the right person. And he's dancing his heart out. And she kind of comes up and she'll dance a little bit. And then it's like, yeah, and she turns away and walks off to another group. And they'll dance in groups. Like sometimes you'll see 3 or 4 that are dancing together in a circle. And it's just, oh, it's so cute. It's so cool.
If it's all right with you, I'm going to ask you all these mating questions because there's a bunch of questions about the mating. So during their mating dance, why do they tuck their beaks under their wings?
Right. Well, why do we go like this when we dance? I mean, it's just one of those things that albatrosses do. And all the species have a different dance. So who knows? I mean, who knows who invented these special moves and what do they mean? It's a mystery.
And so how do they learn those dances?
Oh, I love that question because it's a trip to watch that I mean, I've heard, I haven't actually seen this happen. It's almost like they're born dancing. It's like it's part of them because their parents don't teach them. They observe others around them. So they're growing up, they're these little chicks and they're watching. I mean, everybody around them is dancing. So they probably learn a lot from observing, but still it's part of them. It's really interesting.
So I heard that some of those chicks that are relocated to a new island, right?
Mm-hmm.
In the attempt of getting them more diverse places,
Mm-hmm.
I heard that they didn't even have a parent to watch and they know how to dance. Is that true?
Right. That's exactly right, Lynn. Yep. And that's something that's just so wild.
Wow.
But how did they learn? I mean, they probably had some exposure before they were translocated, but yeah, it's pretty incredible.
Tom Soleil wants to know, what does a baby albatross look like?
They're so cute. Well, different albatrosses look different. Like their baby plumage is a different color, but the Laysan have dark brown plumage when they're born and growing up, and then when they start to lose it, if you watch that the video that I put together, I actually show some pictures during that awkward stage when they start to lose their baby down dark feathers, and then their white adult feathers are visible between, and they kind of lose them, and they have mohawks left, and it's always they look funny during that stage.
I think you need to show us your albatross doll. What about your albatross doll?
Oh, okay. So I have a couple of different albatross plushies.
And
I'm in my studio now.
Maybe we can cue up the video about talking to their egg while we're on this subject.
Sure. So a friend of mine makes these wonderful plushies, and you can find them online. Let me see. I even have the email address. Anyway, look up albatross plushies. But that's a much younger one, and here's an older one. That's a sweetie too.
Wow. So Hardy, can we play the one talking to their eggs?
So I should say, okay, Hardy has this already. Great. So let me just say, albatross only lay 1 egg per season. So it's 1 egg. So they devote so much energy. I mean, it takes a lot of energy to produce this heavy, big egg. But then after this egg is laid, just watch how these parents are so attentive to this egg. And listen to them. But you could hear them. It's just so cute.
Oh.
Thanks, Hardy.
So well,
there we go.
Caren, what does it take to raise a chick? How long does it take? And tell us about the cycle.
Okay. So I wrote this all down because I always forget the exact times. So they, once they lay the egg, they incubate for about 65 days.
What?
So
2
they're
months?
actually, so the parents are taking turns, and they can stay just sitting there for up to 3 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks. So one of the parents sits on the egg incubating, and then the other one goes out to sea and then comes back. So that's actually kind of amazing how close to starvation and dehydration they must get to be sitting there for that long. They don't leave the egg. They have such fidelity to that egg and that nest site that they actually just stay put. So then so after about 65 days, the chick starts to hatch, starts to peck its way out of the egg, and the parents encourage, like with vocalizations, but they don't do anything to help. The chick has to get out on his or her own. And then once they hatch, then the parents again stay on and keep the chick warm until the chick is actually able to stay warm on its own, like regulate its own body temperature. But they then continue to take turns after that, coming back and feeding the chick. So both parents leave once the chick can maintain its body temperature. So then they start to come back. Both adults come back regularly to feed the chick until the chick is big. And that's about 165 days later, parents stop returning because the chick is big, and they stuff it with food. And then they say, okay, kid, you're on your own. And then it's up to the young albatross, the juvenile, to just get hungry enough and thirsty enough to be driven out to sea. And I should point out, albatross is really their true home is over the ocean, and they spend most of their lives over the open ocean. So this time that I got to see them, I mean, that nesting, that breeding time it's like 10%, not even 10% of their lives. So it's pretty interesting. That's their home. Their home is the ocean. That's why they're called seabirds. They actually have adapted to drink salt water. They can't drink fresh water. They can, but not for long. And I don't think that they survive on it. But anyway, they've adapted where they actually have tubes at the tops of their bills, and the saline, which is a very thick, salty substance. That's the stuff their body can't use. It comes out through the top of their nose and drips down. You can actually see it dripping down. But yeah, they're adapted to really. They make their living off of the ocean.
Wow. So they only lay one egg. They
Yep.
will take turns feeding it for 65 days.
Yep.
And so the albatross that's on it will like sit on it for 2 to 3 weeks, and they don't get food and they don't get water.
No. But the hatching time to the fledging time is 165 days. So it's
165.
yeah. So it's
half a year.
Yeah, well, not quite, but yeah.
Almost
So
half a
they
year.
actually raise that chick. It's not until the summertime that the chicks finally fledge.
So they come and they start in November,
Mm-hmm.
and they'll kind of congregate, and then they'll start laying their eggs, and they won't leave until summertime.
Well, they take the adults take turns.
Right.
So
I find that fascinating.
One at a time. Yeah.
Wow. Is there a banding program on Midway?
Well, I know they banned a lot of chicks. I mean, so I know at Kilauea Point, I know they were banding all of the albatross that were there because there were so many less of them. But on Midway, I know that they'll do what's called a plot survey. So they'll have a certain area, like a square or a circle, and within that area, they'll band all of the albatrosses. So that way they're able to really study them over several years. So they don't band all of them because we're talking about 1 million birds at a clip on the colony. So
why don't we play that video, Hardy, about the colony, video number 5, and then I think I'll move us to the questions about what can we do for them.
Sounds great.
How can we help them?
was riding my bike, I should say. So on Midway, you ride a bike. That's how you get around. So when I was taking that video, I was actually riding my bike to just do a span, and that was just like one area of Midway. The atoll is basically 1 mile by 2 miles, and it's everywhere there's a piece of land that's available. There'll be an albatross, or available and appropriate, or really has the right conditions for nesting. You'll see somebody nesting there. It's pretty wild.
How do you count
the road sometimes?
How do you count them when there's so many?
Oh, that's a long story.
Someone did have that question.
Oh, did someone ask that question, or was that yours?
No,
okay.
Someone asked a question.
Okay, no, if you watch my video, I actually make a little movie about it. But basically, you break all the 3 different islands that make up the atoll into sectors. So those sectors are areas, and then let's say there are 6 of us in a group of counters, and we stand about 3 albatross nests apart, and we have clickers in our hand, and we just walk through. Actually, we have 2, because it's usually laysan and black-footed. There's a 3rd species called short-tail, and actually this year they fledged successfully, which is really cool and really exciting, because the short-tailed albatrosses are very rare. They really got decimated back with the feather industry in Victorian times. But yeah, counting them is really amazing. So you go back and forth, you pinwheel at the end of the line, and then go back and cover the next area, and you just continue until you've counted all the sectors.
Wow. Yeah,
it's amazing. The record year that I did in it was hatch year 2015. We had like 666,000 active nests that we counted. It was incredible. I guess I mentioned that already. I'm still impressed by it.
So that means 1.2, 1.3 million birds, albatross.
Well, thanks for saying that, because when we say active nests, so that means it's 2 adults, right? And an egg. And then there's all of the juveniles that are coming back, and they're prospecting. So yeah, there's a lot of albatrosses. So it's over 1 million albatrosses usually at a time in a colony.
So let's get down to the nitty gritty. What can we do to help them? Chris says, what is the most important thing we can do to help secure the future success of the albatross species?
Wow, that's a great question. And I think there's a lot of different things that we can do, but I'll say the 3 main threats and how we can make a difference for them in that regard. The first one would be sea level rise is a big problem for albatrosses, especially the black-footed that nest closest to the shore, because energy, we can use less energy, which will affect sea level rise. But I saw it when I was there, a sea surge happens. The ocean is getting higher and higher, and when during storms, you have storm surge, and it wipes out nests, and it takes away a whole nesting season for an albatross. And eventually these low-lying islands, that's the northwestern Hawaiian Islands, they're all very low. They're atolls, just sandy atolls. It's what's left over from where a volcano used to be, right? So just over so much time, now it's just this low, sandy island. And so anyway, using less energy. So ride your bike, the usual kind of stuff. If you can, take public transportation. I mean, of course, we're in an unusual moment right now with the virus and everything, but just knowing that when you can take your bike, walk, just be conscious of your energy consumption, turn off the lights, stuff like that. And then there's long line fisheries. So a lot of albatrosses are attracted to the bait that's on these lines. They chase fishing boats. That's the biggest threat for the black-footed albatrosses. They're always attracted to the boats. And if they go after the bait and they get hooked, they can get pulled under and they drown. And there's a ton of losses of albatrosses to longline fisheries. So lately there's an effort to educate and get the fishing boats to use scaring techniques. And I think it's just really simple. It's like flags and stuff. The albatrosses are afraid and they don't go after the boats. So just to be very aware when you buy safe seafood, albatross safe seafood. I know it doesn't say it, but the longline fisheries is something to really key into. That kind of fishing technique is very dangerous to albatrosses. And finally, plastic, which I started to talk about a little bit before, but we can definitely not, we don't have to use single-use plastic. I mean, if you have something that's single-use, just use it again, keep using it. But when you wouldn't believe going out to Midway, I mean, how much plastic you see. So what you guys are doing, Pacific Beach Coalition, I mean, you're going out, you're cleaning up the beaches, you're educating the public about plastic use, and you're also outplant. I mean, Pacific Beach Coalition goes out and plants native plants, and again teaches people about it. So that's what I try to do, is I try to teach people through this kind of a conversation, and also with my artwork and my books. So
yeah, we have to share that.
Albatross. So if you have young people, if you're a young person or you have young people in your life, I worked with Cornell Lab Publishing Group and Cornell Lab of Ornithology, and we published this book, and it's all about a day in the life of an albatross. And it's got all the technical good stuff, but it's fun. It's a fun story, and
it's got beautiful photos,
beautiful art, and I really go into all of the different specifics about albatross biology, but you can learn it in a fun way. So that's a nice way to kind of reach out to young people. And you can also, I want to hand it over to you, Lynn, to talk about some cool things that you guys are doing. But I just want to remember to say, Friends of Midway Atoll, they actually fund all the work that's done on Midway, that not all of it, but they help fund the care of the wildlife out on Midway. And they're an incredible group, and I love them, and I work with them whenever I can, and I donate art for them to use. So they're about to launch a new bonfire campaign that's all about raising funds for the Midway wildlife and albatrosses. So if you're interested in the latest artwork, which actually has one of my pieces on the back, and the front is this logo. Nice. But anyway, it's the albatross digging into the water to grab a squid. So it's going to be a really fun and dynamic piece on the back. So you could go to Friends of Midway, their website. I think it's FOMA. I don't remember the website, but if you just look up Friends of Midway Atoll, you'll find them, and you'll find their campaign in the next few days. So shout out to Friends of Midway.
Wow. I want to just say that the Pacifica Library bought a bunch of these books, I think maybe 200, to give to people for book to action for this year with Earth Day. So I'm not sure if they're going to keep it for next year, or if when things kind of open up, you might get that. Paula, you might text if you can get on there. We can share that. But I also want to say regarding sea level rise and climate change, plastic pollution and drawing the oil out of the ground is creating a lot of chemicals that are causing and pollutants that are causing sea level rise as well, the climate change. So reducing our use of plastic, and I think holding accountable the producers that are selling all this plastic, for them to create a program to minimize the plastic and or to take it back and to reuse it like glass so that it's not in the waste stream. I think that can help sea level rise significantly. And they're not going to do it if we don't ask them to do it or we don't make them do it. So I think our voices are really important. So Caren, I want to thank you so much for all that you have, and we may even fit in another couple questions.
I see a bunch of really great questions here. I feel bad that we didn't get to answer. Is there a way that we can address questions later, or hang on, and can we go beyond the hour and answer? How should we do this? You can, if you go to my website, you can just go ahead and email me questions that we didn't get to answer, because you have some great questions here. So I feel I would really like to be able to answer them for you.
The link will stay active, and you can answer the questions right there in that Ask a Question tab. And
okay.
And we'll continue to watch your video on there as well.
Awesome.
Oh, cool.
So everybody just know, if you asked a question, I will answer it over the next day. So check back on that link.
Well, maybe we need to do this again. and we need to have you come back.
Oh,
So I did want to thank you so much. You've been just a delight to work with, and you've just shared your artwork with us for our Earth Day poster. So we'll probably use this again next year. You've been very generous in creating the video for us to learn from, and creating the school assembly for us to share with the kids. And you've just delighted us with all this information. I also how beautiful is that? And that's all block print, I understand.
yeah,
right,
that's
Caren?
right. So it's block printing, and you can see it tells the story. On the right side are the squid, and so this albatross is flying back to feed its chick. So that I wanted to tell that whole story of the albatross in that moment.
And there's the chick on the left,
Mhm.
and we've got the waves, and we've got the wind, right?
Yep. Well, I have to say, Lynn, it's been, and all of you, thank you so much at Pacific Beach Coalition. It's such a pleasure, and we'll continue to work together. I feel like I love working with you guys. It's a great partnership.
And
So
if
thanks for
everything
the
gets back to
opportunity.
if everything gets back to normal, Caren, they'll be able to come see you at the EcoFest, hopefully in April.
Yeah, great.
Right.
It'll be good
And in the
fun.
meantime, I think we can all dedicate some time to pick up the litter that we have. The Beach Coalition is supporting volunteers with a bucket and pickup sticks through our Street to Beach program. We're asking everybody that picks up litter to log it in the app called Clean Swell. And the Clean Swell app is really easy, but it catalogs what you're picking up and pinpointing it when you put submit. And those are all information that we can share and use to get legislation changed with all the plastic that we're using. So if you'd like to sign up for the Street to Beach program, please look at our website, pacificbeachcoalition.org. I'd like to give a big shout out to the Pacific Beach Coalition members. So many people are doing very good work. So many volunteers. I mean, we've got about 150 street to beach cleanup people since Memorial Day. So that's people that are dedicated to picking up all the time, whenever they walk and wherever they are. So it's the 4th of July coming up next week. Let's make a commitment to use, make it a healthy 4th of July, and no single-use plastic, no more plastic forks and spoons, no more plastic cups, and no more plastic bottles as much as you can. So I want to thank everybody. It looks like we're pretty much out of time. I see a thing. Thank you, Caren, for being so engaging.
I'm reading these. I'm going to be able to take my time and read them, and I'm going to answer all your questions. So please check back, because there are some great questions here, and I'm like, chomping at the bit. I want to answer them. So there's a lot of cool things about Albatross that really great questions. Thanks so much for your interest, everybody, and yay, yay, albatrosses.
You got it.
Thanks,
And we got the
Lynn.
educational guide down below too, where people that are educators, or even if you have kids at home, you can pull up some lessons that are done with
Cornell Lab, excuse me for interrupting. Cornell Lab of Ornithology created an educational guide to go with the book. And you can download it for free, and it's fabulous. And it even it goes according to the standards, the national standards. So you can use it for STEM, and it's incredible. And it's a beautiful resource for educators and for parents. And there's even on their website, they have different activities that you can do. So there's a lot there. Go to the Cornell Lab website. And if you want to learn more about volunteering, go to the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service website, Midway, and you can learn about volunteer opportunities there.
I'd also like to give a big shout out to Hardy from Earthcapades.
Yay.
I think we gave him a few gray hairs making this happen. And Hardy and his wife, Listen, and his son, Kai, have been juggling and teaching people about the environment and education and water, and they're just incredible Earth heroes. So thank you, Hardy and Earthcapades.
Thank you, Hardy. Yay. Yay, there they are.
Hardy and Listen.
Aww. And thanks to everybody else on the Pacific Beach Coalition team to make this happen. You guys are awesome. So happy to know you.
Wonderful. Okay,
thanks
guys.
everybody for watching and hanging in there. I see we didn't lose. Everybody stayed the whole time. Thanks so much.
Thank you. 180 people. Wow, wonderful.
Yay! So aloha from Volcano, Hawaii. Ahui ho. Have a great night, everybody.
Okay, bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.
Wow.